Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I grew up in Georgetown, Tasmania. I kind of wanted to do a video about Georgetown, but I'm going to do more of a proper documentary later. But this really is just talking about my experience growing up there and just a little bit of information about it. The town is one of the oldest towns in Australia. Now, there's some debate as to what the actual oldest town is based on, when land was sited versus when land was actually built on and lived on and so forth, and there's a few contenders, but it's one of the top ones. So it was, I guess, founded in 1804, and they started building the town in 1819, because they started off at the edge of the river, at the mouth of the river, which was the best defensive position, but then they sort of kept moving back further until they ended up in Launceston, which is about 50 kilometres further back. But then someone was like, no, we need to build a town, at the mouth of the river, where it's the best defence. So there was some politics back in the day, and Launceston became the city, and Georgetown became more of a beach town, small country town. There's about 6,000 people living there now. I don't know how many there were when I was there, but it's not a big town, although that does sound like a lot, but it didn't feel like a lot, and there was less when I was a kid. There's a few landmarky sort of things. I mean, basically it's at the mouth of the Tamar River. There's a little penguin colony. You've got the pilot station cottages and the watch house, which was like the old jail, which is now like a little museum. And I really resent the fact that they apparently have an active arts community, and they have an annual fair and a show and all this stuff. None of that was there when I was a kid. There was nothing. It was just me and nothing. So yeah, it was very quiet. It was very simple. You sort of watch a lot of these old sort of Hollywood movies of sort of these old sort of classic American towns, and that's what it felt very much like. I hated it when I was a little bit older and I wanted to move to the city, and I've lived in the city ever since. And then every time I went back home, it was like an episode of The Simple Life. If you've ever watched The Simple Life, I know that's an old show now with Paris and Nicole, but that's what it felt like. Every time I went home, I felt like them going, but instead of going to some place they'd never been before, to the country, which they didn't know. It was like going back. It was like a culture shock every couple of months. But and my family was always like, why are you like acting like you don't know like what this is? I'm like, well, because I've left now. This is not where my head is. So it's an interesting little town where it's sort of like I said, based on the edge of a river. So you have a little cove, and then the river keeps on going down. Then you have a beach on the other side and a mountain at the back. And we had a little mountain because we moved twice. When I was first growing up, we lived in a little town in a crescent, park behind it and a swamp, and later a drainage system just like in it. And that was just across the road from the high school, the primary school and the high school, which were back to back. And so when you graduated to high school, you only had to walk a little bit further. And we had a little convenience store on the corner, and you just had to walk. In theory, you could just walk down the end of the crescent and cross a little area, and then you'd be at the end of the main street. So it was very small, very simple, very easy. There were little areas I played in when I was a kid, and I didn't really go much further than that. It was years until I was older that I saw different parts of the town and got my own bike and just sort of went around the town and found stuff and would visit friends who lived in other parts of the town and stuff. And it's kind of funny how small of a world you can have when you're a kid and you're growing up. But I mean, I do now look back very fondly on it, whereas I hated it when I was kind of, a teenager and wanted to get out. I don't think I could ever go back and live there because it's a bit too quiet for me, but I understand why people do and why people appreciate that quiet. I understand why you want to raise children there and have a family, because it's just kind of a good environment for that. You kind of have to take them outside, I think, to see more of the world as they're growing up, so they don't grow up a little too, insular. But it does allow you to sort of create a little cocoon there. So I do look back with fond memories. I do appreciate it. I have enjoyed visiting it, but I haven't gone back since my mother died, and I don't think I ever will. although my mum's ashes are on Mount George, and I would like to have mine put there as well, like I think most of the family's planning to. I don't know, my sister did as well. So I may go back at some point, but I may not be alive. But yeah, I just want to talk about it for a minute because I just wanted to acknowledge where I came from and, just sort of celebrate it a little bit. It's a beautiful little town, all these old buildings. I wanted to live in the city, so I did. I'm not going to say anything else about it, other than that most of my family still lives there, and it hasn't really changed. It's changed a bit for the better, but ultimately it's got that same sort of small town feel about it, and it's always going to be a small town. And people who want to live there, that's why they live there. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.